people tell you no or they ignore you. A lot of people don't like that kind of feeling of rejection. So you have to move through that. Some people don't want to. There's a lot of mindset blocks you have to work through. But when you're the one presenting the information and if people aren't buying, it's like, well, is it me? Am I doing something wrong? And so there's a lot of growth, I think, that takes place. And that is the hard part. Do you want to grow through that or not? Do you want to figure it out or not? I found that when I've hit different roadblocks in the business or speed bumps or whatever it is, you can always figure it out, but do you want to? You know, because it does take time, it does take effort, it does take energy. You know, you have to want to figure it out.
That's really interesting, and I kind of want to dive into that a little bit more, because let's just call it out. Like, you are going to face difficult times, right? You are going to be hit with so many things out of your control, you know. Welcome to Building Your Business with dōTERRA, the podcast where you learn secrets of top wellness advocates, and we take the guesswork out of building your business so you can progress quickly towards your financial goals, experience time flexibility, and live the life of your dreams. We are here with Kayla Monson, and Kayla is from California. Originally, right? As well?
Yeah, grew up there.
Born and raised. Let's
Born
go.
and raised. Yeah.
Okay. And you've been part of dōTERRA for how long now?
10 years.
10 years.
Been a customer for 10 years. Yeah.
Okay. When did you start building?
Probably around 8.5 years ago.
Anyways, we're super happy to have you because you bring a very unique element to this. And you mentioned that you started 10 years ago as a customer, but you started building 2 years after that, after you were a customer. What made you flip where you were like loving the product and then you're like, okay?
There were a couple of things. One, loving the product, and I wanted my friends and family using it, and I wanted to get my oils paid for. That was just my goal. Let's get my oils paid for because I'm going to make my friends and family use them anyways.
Yeah. And just for people watching for the very first time, how is it that you get your oils paid for? And also for people that, you know, maybe come up against that objection or whatever you want to call it, where people are like, hey, man, this is too pricey. So talk to us about, like, how do you get your oils paid for?
So my plan initially was, you know, if you have 3 people that are on loyalty rewards and they order 100 PV, doesn't even have to be the same people every month. It can be different people. You get a $50 bonus. So that's almost half my order right there, because you do have to place a 100 PV order to earn those commissions, which I was doing that anyways.
Right.
I was already ordering those things. I was switching things that I would buy, and I earned rewards on that, which I also loved. And what's great is not only can you get your product paid for through commissions, so by earning that $50 bonus, and then you're also earning what we call unilevel commissions, so a percentage of each order goes back to you, but I'm also earning points on my order. So I'm getting my part of my order or all of my order reimbursed in cash and earning those points that I can buy free product with. So it's kind of like a win-win.
If you can find win-win situations with everything, then why not?
Yeah.
Okay. So you've been with dōTERRA for 8.5 years or so. What keeps you with dōTERRA?
I mean, several things. I mean, like on a bigger level, it's the impact. It's, you know, I recently got to go to Bulgaria and see, you know, where we source lavender and rose and our distilleries, and just hearing how much thought goes into every single detail.
It's amazing.
It's just unheard of. And it's not the details. It's more of how can we help more people? How can we provide more jobs? How can we give them higher wages? Like, how can we, you know, make this the best working environment that is available here? And, you know, for instance, in Bulgaria, where they, you know, where the roses, you expect these big semi trucks to pull up with roses. That's what I'm envisioning when I think of, you know, what we do and the scale that we do it on. And instead, you have these tiny little cars, like little hatchbacks, like, you know, smaller than maybe even like a Toyota sedan, filled in the back seats with big bags of rose petals. And these are just, you know, normal working families. And I just loved that. I loved how it wasn't this big enterprise. It was actual people that we were, they were helping us and we were helping them. And so I think on the bigger piece, it's just that impact and knowing that we can make that impact, not only for our farmers, but in people's homes too. Yeah. It's also like on a personal level, I don't consider myself a very creative person actually, but when it comes to social media, I feel creative and I have like this creative outlet, and it just lights this spark in me that I didn't know was there. And so I think for me too, it fills me up in a way that nothing else ever has. And I really feel like my business was like a saving grace for me because it was mine and I felt good at it. And at the time, nothing else was mine because I was had a baby. Yeah. And I didn't feel good at being a parent. I didn't feel good at any of that at the time. She was a very difficult child. Yeah. And so that was like such a positive outlet for me that, those kinds of things that I, on the hard days, I remember that and it just keeps me going because I want that option to be there for other people. I want other people to find that option. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's really interesting. I mean, when you take away all the meat, right? And we get right down to the skeleton of things, if you will. It all comes back to that impact. And when you live it, when you see it, and when you share those memories of being over there in Bulgaria and seeing this small scale farmer pull up with his hatchback, it really makes you passionate, and also I feel like it reinforces your confidence of this beautiful movement that we're part of. Now, we love the product, right? I think that's another number one staple is product comes first. For you, I watch you, I see you talking about the product all the time. How do you then flip from talking about the product to talking about the business opportunity?
Yeah, that was a really, really hard one for me for many years. And still to some degree it is, because it's so easy for me to come up with product material. So easy. But then it's like with business material, it's like, how do I translate what this has really done for me? And also, how do I meet people where they're at? Not everybody wants to be a diamond. Everybody has different goals. So I don't want to make it seem so big that, there's people watching on the sidelines thinking, well, I don't really want to do that. But so small that people are like, it's not for me. And so you kind of have to meet in the middle. So for a long time, my thought process was, well, I started out as a customer. So customers will come in and they'll fall in love with the product and they'll be like I was. That didn't quite work out. Because, if you don't have that need, for something else, people are busy. Yeah. It's not for everybody. And so I realized the need to talk about the business more. And that was really uncomfortable for me for many years, and still sometimes is. And so I started having more conversations within my customer groups with people that I knew loved the product, that were, already consistent orders. Those were kind of the people that I looked for. And now I make it a priority to share pieces of the business as much as I can. And it really does take that thought of like, okay, I need to make sure that I'm talking about this, because you get so used to talking about the product that sometimes it's easy to forget to mention that, oh, by the way, not only do I have this great opportunity, but I have this one too. So I think it's helpful for me to remember what has it done for my life and how badly I want that for other people. And so when I can remember that, I can remember that I have to talk about it. Yeah. I have to tell people what's possible, because if no one would have told me, I can't imagine how different my life would be. Yeah.
Yeah. And when we first kicked off this podcast, you were naturally talking about, getting your oils paid for, and you kept it pretty simple to where I was like, okay, maybe I'll join tomorrow. I'm going to start doing this thing tomorrow, Kayla. Yeah. But yeah, I love the fact that if it's almost similar to the out of sight, out of mind, right? if it's not there, then how can you expect people coming in to even, be able to capture that vision?
Well, and I've had people ask me too, like, wait, I can do what you do? Because I've been doing it for a while. So I think they assume like, oh, she's had some training. She got invited to do this. And nope, anybody can do it.
Yeah.
You get to decide. And I think part of it too, if you remember why you're doing it and what is it bringing to your life, it doesn't seem fair not to tell other people.
Facts. Right. Okay. Now you're doing the business. And I think after you let people know, okay, this is an opportunity. It's a beautiful opportunity. It can be, very challenging. Well, I guess I'll just ask you, is it hard to do doTERRA?
That's a loaded question.
'Kay.
So it is simple.
Okay.
I think it's simple. I think that the things that we do are simple.
Okay.
Educating, and whether that's online or in person, following up with people, letting them know how they can get started, sharing the information, waiting for them to be ready, being consistent. Like, those things are simple principles. But beyond that, it can be hard. It can be, because if you don't have a history of doing this type of work, I didn't, it's all new. People tell you no, or they ignore you. A lot of people don't like that kind of feeling of rejection. So you have to move through that. Some people don't want to. There's a lot of mindset blocks you have to work through. But when you're the one presenting the information, and if people aren't buying, it's like, well, is it me? Am I doing something wrong? And so there's a lot of growth, I think, that takes place, and that is the hard part. Do you want to grow through that or not? Do you want to figure it out or not? I've found that when I've hit different roadblocks in the business or speed bumps or whatever it is, you can always figure it out, but do you want to? Because it does take time, it does take effort, it does take energy. You have to want to figure it out.
That's really interesting. And I kind of want to dive into that a little bit more, because let's just call it out. Like, you are going to face difficult times, right? You are going to be hit with so many things out of your control. 2020, COVID hits. There's so many different things. But how you mentioned that, yeah, you can move past it. And so what helps you crave that need, I guess, or that desire to move past that? Like, what helps you want to move past that?
Feeling like I'm not done yet. I'm not where I want to be.
Yeah.
So I'm not done. So if I'm truly not done, I have to figure it out.
Right.
And I remember a time when I was going for founders. It's about halfway through. That was the hardest I've ever worked. Every single day, every minute that I was not sleeping, and even sometimes in my dreams, it was all about that and what I needed to do. And I remember having a conversation with Emily at a diamond retreat and saying, like, I don't think I can do it. Like, everything seems to be shifting. Like, my enrollments have gone down. I don't think I'm going to make it. And I want it so bad. And I remember her looking at me, and she just said, but you're going to figure it out, because that's what you do. You always figure it out. And it's true of me. I do always figure it out. Maybe not right then, and maybe it takes me a lot longer, and maybe not in the way that I want it to, and doesn't always go the way I want it to, but you can always figure it out. And so that has really stuck through my mind, the rest of the competition and everything. When I go into a situation now, I think, like, can I figure this out? And is there an answer? And there almost always is. And I think for me, it's more like, I'm not done yet. I'm not satisfied. You know, and it's not about money or status or anything like that. It's just, I have goals and I'm not there yet.
And that's kind of where I was leading with that, or I was hoping we would get to, is just the goals. We're in a new year right now. And I think we've all heard this from childhood to, especially once you roll through high school and college, like the importance of setting goals. I think a lot of people undervalue how powerful it is
Mm-hmm.
to set a target for yourself and to go after that.
Yeah.
Can you kind of speak to just maybe some things on goal setting?
Well, I feel like if you don't have a goal, if you don't have something tangible written out, you don't have a direction that you're moving. If you don't have a goal, you can't break it down into what do I need to achieve this goal. So you're probably not going to do anything,
Yeah.
right? Because you're not working towards anything, and you can't break that down because you have nothing there. So I feel like when there's no goal, like you kind of lose your purpose a little bit. You know, like what's the next thing,
Mm-hmm.
and how do I get there? And you know, I think there's something to be said between making a goal so big that you in your mind cannot even believe that there's any way that you could do it. But if you take it down a little bit, like, well, maybe I could believe this, you know, and then breaking that down into kind of how can I get there?
Right.
But you have to have a goal,
Yeah.
or else you're just kind of wandering in the desert, you know, with no map, nothing. It's your map.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's your map of where you're going. You know, and whether that goal is a rank, you know, an income, an amount of families that you want to impact. I mean, it could be anything.
Yeah. When you bring your builders on, or when you know somebody's ready to build,
Mm-hmm.
is that something that you talk to them about? Like, hey, what are your goals? What are you trying to do with this?
Yeah, and sometimes I think they're not sure yet. I didn't know what my goals were in the beginning.
Okay.
I didn't have a 10-year plan with doTERRA at the time. It was like, I'm just trying to get my oils paid for. And then it was like, I'm just trying to reach this step. You know, it was kind of baby steps. And every time I would meet that, I could see a bigger vision. And so every time it would unlock another door of like, oh, well, now this is possible. But when I was first starting out, the things way down the road, I could not envision that. That was way, my brain would not go there. And so I do have that conversation just very lightly with builders. I mean, I don't want to scare them away. As far as like, what do you want to see happen? And, you know, are you wanting to make a certain amount of money? Are you, you know, what does that look like for you? Like, because I think me as their mentor, knowing what their goal is, I know what I need to do to help them. How much help are they going to need? How much time do they want to put in? But then also knowing that goals change. Typically they grow, but sometimes they're different. Sometimes they go off in another direction, and we have to be willing to just kind of be flexible with that and navigate it. So I think it's always worth going back to the goal. Okay, you had told me you wanted to do this. Is that still where you're at? If it's not, let's adjust. If it's bigger, let's adjust. If it's smaller, let's adjust. But kind of keeping tabs on where your people are at.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Almost envisioned almost like a trainer, you know, following up with somebody who has some new health goals in the gym. Anyways, let's flip this into the conversation of social media. Or you know what? Let's just talk about 2024 in general. Even towards, I'd say, the past 3 months. What are you noticing in terms of like being successful when it comes to enrollments? Now, the here and now, for you or for your team, things that you're hearing. What success stories are you seeing within your organization personally or through team members?
As far as enrolling people, like what's working to get them enrolled?
What's working?
I would say education is a big piece. One of the things I've always felt like is that people have to see themselves actually using the oil. So if you don't tell them how to actually use it, it's like this big, scary, non-tangible thing of that's not for me. You know, it's one thing, I explain this to my builders all the time, but it's one thing to present them with a bottle of lavender and say, I love lavender. It just smells so pretty. Then to say, hey, guess what? When you've had a really bad day with your kids, you're feeling really overstimulated, you can just, you know, put a drop of this in your hand, smell it, rub some on your shoulders, and you are going to be a different parent for the rest of the night. It's two different things.
Yeah.
It's explaining something versus here's how I actually used it and why, and they might see themselves in that story. So it has to be tangible. It has to be quick. People, I mean, my attention span is not what it once was. So
I don't think anybody's is.
No. So I'm like, how can I make this even quicker? How can I make this even more simple? Even if that means that you have to break it up into 4 different pieces of information, whether that's an email, a text, a social media reel, and it's got to be 4 different ones. That's better than trying to cram it into one. And I know that's hard because you get excited and you want, I want to get this done now. I want to get this person enrolled now. But I think there's something to be said with being patient and being okay with the process of breaking it down so that the person can digest it.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, they say the what informs, but the why transforms. So when you spend time on explaining, like, hey, here's what you can do with this, like, and oh man, and that's the cool thing about the oils. Like, there's so many different things you can do with one oil. What's this oil I got over here? Serenity. Speaking of lavender, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
One
Kayla.
other thing.
Yeah. Come on. Let's go. We got Kayla Monson on here.
Just having been in the business for a long time, for the longest time, it was like you enroll with 100 PV or 150 PV. Like that was where our focus was. That was where, the free membership kicked in. And then we took away that barrier, right? That $35 fee gets waived for all new enrollments. And so I noticed with my builders that have been around for a long time, they're still very much like, I got to get somebody to enroll at this higher dollar amount. I got to get them in with a kit because that's just what they're ingrained to do. And I mean, obviously, like we want our clients to have, more oils to play with. But what's interesting is when I bring on new builders that have never had that barrier, they're happy to just enroll someone with whatever. And so it helps bolster like their confidence. And they don't have that barrier in their mind of, oh, I need to get this person to 150 PV. It's just like, no, let's get this person started with whatever they want to start with. We don't always have to upsell them. And I think if people can kind of release that requirement in their mind, I mean, obviously when an incentive trip qualification is happening, you're going to think about it a lot more.
Diamond Club, Silver
Club.
Yeah.
You might incentivize it more. But other than that, I always tell them, a customer with one oil is better than no customer at all, right? I have a builder that started with a bottle of lavender. You never, ever know. Obviously, it's great to get them in with a couple so that they can do more with them. But if the only way you're going to get them in the door is with that one oil, enroll them.
At least they're in the door.
They're your customer now.
Yeah.
You can nurture them.
Yeah.
So I think that's something to be said for people that have been around for a long time. They may not be realizing that barrier is gone. Just help people get enrolled wherever they need to start.
Right. And the thing I love about that is it really turns into like the person that you're servicing, right? It's about them and not necessarily about, whatever it is that we're trying to go for. But, and I feel like a lot of times people can feel that.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And so, yeah. But yeah, that's a gem right there. Let's make sure we shoot that out there. Okay, we might start wrapping things up, Kayla.
Okay.
But I don't know. Do you have any other pieces of advice when it comes to building in 2024, whether it's social media or just in general?
I mean, I think there's just so many ways to build this business. It's kind of the beauty of it. So find what you're good at and find what you like. I think when I first started building, I was taught to do it a certain way, and I thought that was it.
Yeah.
And when I branched away from that, I found what I was really passionate about.
Yeah.
So find what aligns with you, whether it's a vendor event, online, in person. You don't have to do it a certain way. And you also don't even have to do it just one way, Right.
It's the beauty of the business right there.
Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah. Kayla, we're gonna wrap things up with a rapid fire round. Okay.
Oh gosh.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. Spice things up a little bit. And so I'm just going to ask you 4 to 5 quick little questions, and you just respond with the first thing that comes to mind. Okay? You're on the hot seat, girl.
Okay.
All right.
Do I win a prize?
Yeah. Yep. We don't know what it is, but we'll figure that out. Okay. Describe your doTERRA journey in 3 words.
Oh gosh. My first thought is, do they have to be words that go together? Just random words.
Random words.
Unexpected. Fun. And growth, I think, would be a big one.
Okay. What's the first oil you use every day?
Well, that changes every day. But I can tell you an oil I use every single day is copaiba.
Okay. If you had to create a blend, what would you call it?
I've literally never thought of that before. I mean, I've created a lot of blends, and I try to
let me
think of
ask you
funny
this.
names, but
If there was an oil that you would like to revive,
oh gosh, you know what I'm going to say.
what would it be?
Elevation.
Okay.
Bring it back.
Bring it back. Elevate that thing on
I
back.
think that's the only one that I'm like, that's the one I really miss.
Yeah, that was a good one.
That was a good one.
I have I have 3, 4 in a vault that
I have 4.
Okay. Worst advice given to you?
Don't build online. It's not an income producing activity. Oops.
Best advice given to you?
This is actually straight from Justin Harrison. Don't quit, or you're allowed to quit, but only on a good day. So don't quit on a bad day. Because on a good day, you're going to know if it's really the right decision for you.
Right. Okay. Well, family, that's Kayla Monson. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for joining us on this podcast and sharing your wealth of knowledge. Appreciate you. Congratulations on, everything that's happened and everything that's coming. And so we really, really appreciate you. And can't wait to have you back.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks for listening to the show. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss an episode. Also, check out past episodes by searching Empowered Success on Apple, YouTube, or Spotify. Don't forget to share an episode with someone who needs it. If you want more tools to make it easier to build your business, go to the Empowered Success webpage on doTERRA.com. And as a reminder, results are not typical. Average earnings are less. See doTERRA Opportunity and Earning Disclosure Summary on doTERRA.com.